All right. Hello, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started while some people are still trickling on. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joe Conley. I'm the founder of Visana Health. If you're wondering why it's kind of weird to have a guy so interested in endometriosis and pelvic pain, it's because my mom had it undiagnosed for 25 years, really struggled to get proper health care, and that's what kind of spurred me to start the company. And so we want to start off and just try to understand how many people are struggling because of COVID. You know, we've heard a lot of stories about canceled appointments, canceled surgeries, those types of things. And we're just trying to gauge the impact. And so hopefully we'll have a poll here pop up. Um, can you make that work? Yeah, so the question is just how many of you guys have had some type of appointment um, canceled, postponed, affected by this awful virus that's going on right now? So we'll give it a few minutes for people to vote. And the reason that we're asking this is because the reason that we're doing this session today is because we're trying to provide as many resources for the community as possible right now. Jenn has very thankfully given us her time and volunteered to be doing this session. So we're very, very thankful to her. She'll be running it. And us at Visana Health has also made our app free during this time. And we're trying to do more webinars to help, and we're trying to understand what the needs of people are. A lot of our users had said that they're having difficulties getting into pelvic floor physical therapy, whether it's, you know, they just had surgery and they're trying to do their follow-up appointments and they're unable to. And so if you guys have other ideas of things you'd like us to see in terms of webinars or blog content or anything else like that, feel free to contact us on the screen. You can see our email there. My personal email is joe@visanahealth.com. So feel free to reach out to me at any time. I love to hear from all of you. Yeah, so can we end that poll and see what the results are? Can we view them? There we go. So quite a few people, actually, we have had a few canceled surgeries. I'm so sorry for those that have had their surgery delayed or canceled, and also for those that have had any type of appointment canceled as well. So thank you for answering that poll. And now just to give you a little bit of an overview, we have lots of Visana Health users on here, but for those that don't know what Visana Health is, it's an app that teaches disease education, diet, cognitive behavioral therapy, and pelvic floor physical therapy, all guided by a health coach with the aim of trying to get you to take control of your care and enable you to reduce your pain on your own. We've pulled in sources from over 200 different journal articles, and everything is very science-based. The team is either endometriosis and pelvic pain experts or patients themselves. So we employ Nook physicians, we have chronic pain psychologists, we have Kim Plessel, who is a nutritionist that specializes in endometriosis and pelvic pain, and Dr. Jenn Joslyn here was actually the one that designed our pelvic floor physical therapy modules in the app. So if any of you guys would like access to the app that don't currently have it, feel free to reach out to me afterwards. It's completely free. And whatever else we can do to help you, I'm more than welcome to try to do whatever I can. And so just a few housekeeping things. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you can see that there's actually a Q&A functionality and a chat functionality that a lot of you guys have been using. So from an agenda perspective, we'll turn it over to Jenn here in about 40 minutes, and she'll be able to do a pelvic floor relaxation session, and we'll also have a Q&A. Some of you have actually sent in questions beforehand, so we've got some of those compiled. Feel free, if you have any questions before, during, or after the session, to submit them. You can also upvote them and downvote them, and we'll collect them afterwards. And then we'll do a quick Q&A for about 10 or 15 minutes afterwards with Jenn, so she can answer any questions you have about pelvic floor physical therapy. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jenn. And thank you so much again, Jenn, for doing this tonight.
Yeah, of course. I'm super excited. So hi, everybody. I hope that you can hear me. But thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so excited to be here. So as that poll revealed, this has been a truly challenging time for everybody. Stress levels are super high. People are getting sick. Some of our traditional versions of fun and relaxation are no longer available. And you guys have shown that surgeries and appointments have been canceled, and that's super tough. So thank you again for being here and just taking time to take care of you. I think that's truly important right now. You know, I'm hoping today that you walk away feeling just relaxed and that you have some tools to take with you when you're feeling muscle tightness or increased symptoms or pain or increased stress. So to introduce myself, my name is Jenn Joslyn. I'm a physical therapist and pelvic floor specialist here in Minnetonka, Minnesota. So a little bit about my background. I started off as an orthopedic physical therapist, so treating neck pain, shoulder pain, hips, knees. But I found myself getting more and more curious about pelvic floor physical therapy. So from there, I decided to shadow a pelvic floor physical therapist. And something that really stood out to me was these patients would turn to me and just say, you know, pelvic floor PT has completely changed my life. It's given me my life back. I'm now able to exercise. I can play with my kids. I can wear jeans. I can be intimate with my partner. So the ability to impact and change a person's life in such a deep and meaningful way, that's what truly drew me in, and I really love it. So here I am today, and today we'll be focusing on pelvic floor relaxation. So this is super important, especially in times like this, because when our pelvic floor is not relaxed, we often experience pelvic pain, and this can feel like cramping, stabbing, burning, stinging. It can be felt in our pelvis, in our hips, low back, in our abdomen. And additionally, when we're in pain, our brain perceives that as danger, and it kind of turns on that fight or flight response. So our whole nervous system kind of gets ramped up, and our muscles further tighten, which increases our symptoms. And so today, my goal is to show you how to tap into your nervous system, how to relax your muscles, and how to hopefully reduce your symptoms. And what class is going to look like today is we're going to start with some breath work and just kind of abdominal massage and relaxation. We'll be doing some gentle stretching. We'll cool down with some breath work, and then we'll dive into that Q&A. So we can go ahead and get started. So what I'll have you do first is you're just going to find a comfortable position on the floor. And we'll start off on our backs. So I want you to lay in a position that's completely comfortable for you. So whether that means legs are straight in front of you, you can have your knees bent, or if at home you're nearby a couch or a chair, sometimes people find it really comfortable to kind of place their knees and their feet up on that surface. Again, whatever's comfortable for you. We're going to start off with some diaphragmatic breathing. When we're doing diaphragmatic breathing, we really want to think about breathing three-dimensionally. So that means breathing not only through our belly, but through our sides and our low back. So what we'll do to start is first take a deep breath in. And we're going to do about 10 breaths here, breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. Really thinking about filling your belly up with air. Good, so let's take 3 more breaths here. Awesome. From here, we're going to try adding in that pelvic floor relaxation component. So when we think about the pelvic floor, these are muscles that sit at the bottom of our pelvis like a bowl or a sling, and they help to support your bladder, your uterus, and your rectum. So as we're breathing now, with each inhale, we want to think about those pelvic floor muscles completely relaxing and lengthening underneath us, completely letting go, almost like they're just melting underneath you. So now we're going to take 10 big breaths in, exhaling through your mouth. And relaxing your pelvic floor. Good. Let's take 3 more breaths. Awesome. For these last 10 breaths, I want us to think about adding in a pelvic drop. And what that looks like or feels like is that sensation you get right before you're about to initiate a bowel movement, or if you're about to urinate, you're just gently kind of lengthening those muscles. So with each inhale, you're going to let those muscles lengthen and returning back to baseline as you exhale. We'll do that 10 times. Good. Let's do 3 more here. So from here, we're going to start to do a little bit of abdominal massage. And abdominal massage is really nice if you notice that you experience cramping or bloating, gas pain that can be related to your pelvic pain or your diagnosis. What we'll do is we'll start on your left side. So starting right underneath your left ribs, we're going to gently stroke our hands down toward our left hip. And we're going to do that 5 times. And you can use whatever pressure is comfortable for you. For some, that might be a deeper pressure. For others, it might be very, very gentle. You can use your fingertips. You can use the palm of your hand, whatever feels best. We'll do 2 more in this direction. Good. And so I like to call this the ILU massage. We just drew the letter I here. The next is L. You're going to start from your right ribs, go over toward your left ribs, and down toward your left hip. We're going to go ahead and do that 5 times. Good. And the last component is an upside down U. You're going to start from your right hip bone, stroke up toward your right rib, go across to your left rib, and then down to your left hip bone. And we'll do that 5 times. Good. Keep going. Awesome. Let's take 3 big breaths to reset. Again, we'll be doing that diaphragmatic breathing, breathing 3-dimensionally in through your belly. Really focusing on just letting your abdomen go. Everything is nice and soft and relaxed. Good. So we're going to repeat that abdominal massage 2 more times, starting with our starting with the letter I, stroking downwards 5 times. We'll start with the upside down L 5 times. And then with the upside down U 5 times. Again, whatever pressure is comfortable for you. Good, and then we'll take 3 big breaths to reset. Good. Last cycle through that abdominal massage, starting on your left side, 5 times. And what we're doing here is we're actually tracing the route of your intestines. So here, we're kind of stroking downward toward that descending colon. And then with our upside down L, starting on your right side, underneath your ribs, stroking down toward your left hip. That's transverse colon to descending colon. And then lastly, our upside down U, we're moving from right hip to right rib, over to left rib, down to left hip. We're going ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon. So just kind of helping things to relax and move easily through that digestive tract. This can be really great if you suffer from any kind of constipation, again, bloating, gas pain. Really just helps to abdominal pain, helps those muscles relax. And we'll do 5 reset breaths here. Big breath in. And as we're breathing, don't forget to check in with your pelvic floor. As we introduce new movements, really want to check in to make sure that we're not forgetting to relax those muscles. Let's do 2 more breaths. Awesome. So now we're going to move into some gentle stretching. We're going to start with our left leg. And the goal for these stretches is to stretch muscles that attach the pelvis that can be related to pelvic pain, or that can kind of tighten up in response to pelvic pain. We're going to start with a piriformis or glute stretch on our left side. So what you're going to do is take your left leg and cross it over so that your ankle is resting on your right leg. And then you can kind of perform this in a couple of different ways. If you have the flexibility, you can bring your knee toward your chest and hold on with your hands and stretch this way. You can lift your head if you need to. If that's too much, you can also just press downwards on your knee to get a similar stretch. We're going to go ahead and hold this for 8 breaths here. Good. Letting that go. We're going to straighten this right leg. We're going to take our left leg and place our hand on the inside of our knee. And from here, we're going to stretch our inner thigh and pelvic floor muscles. And we're going to hold this one for 8 breaths. You can either just keep your hand on the inside of your knee. If it's more comfortable, you can use 2 hands. And if that doesn't feel good on your hip, you can always just open up your hip in this direction and still get a similar stretch. Holding on to this for a few more breaths here, breathing in through your belly. All of these stretches should feel comfortable. Don't feel like you have to really pull or yank on your muscles, just kind of easing into that stretch. From here, we're gonna move into happy baby. So we're gonna pull both knees up toward our chest, take our hands on the insides of our knees, and then pull outward. So that we're again stretching inner thighs and pelvic floor. You can either perform the stretch in this position. If you want to deepen the stretch even more, you can reach up to grab the inside of your feet, or you can bring your feet together, open up your hips this way to get a similar stretch. I'm going to stretch in this position, and let's hold this for a few more breaths. Okay, we're going to move on to our right side. So we'll kind of do the same exact thing here. We're going to start with that single leg happy baby. So taking a right hand inside of the right knee, pulling gently toward the floor. Again, you can use both hands or you can rest your leg down, whatever feels best on your low back and through your hip. Additionally, if you feel like you need a little bit more low back support, you can always bend that opposite leg too to keep your spine a bit more neutral. So holding this here, let's take 3 more big breaths. Awesome. And then we'll move back into our piriformis stretch now on our right side. So right ankle is crossing over your left leg. We're pulling left leg toward our chest. Again, you can have your head up, your head can be relaxed, or you can push into your knee. Holding this stretch. Again, this is a good time to check in with your pelvic floor. Make sure that you're not clenching by accident. Good, let's take 2 more breaths here. Okay, we're gonna cycle through this 2 more times. This time we'll hold each stretch for 5 breaths instead of 8. So we're gonna start with that piriformis stretch on the left side, pulling knee to chest, 5 breaths. Good. Straightening or bending this opposite leg. Moving into that single leg happy baby, inner thigh stretch. 5 breaths. Good. Double leg happy baby. Gently pulling knees apart to stretch out inner thighs and pelvic floor. Again, modifications, staying here, grabbing inside of your foot, or simply bringing feet together, knees apart. Let's hold this for 2 more breaths. Okay, moving on to the right side, we're gonna drop this right leg, keeping it bent or straight, into single leg happy baby, 5 times. And into that piriformis stretch on the right side, knee to chest. 5 breaths here. Okay, we're gonna cycle through that one more time, holding each stretch for 3 breaths. Hopefully you feel like your muscles are loosening up a little bit, things are letting go. We're gonna start with piriformis stretch on your left side, knee to chest, 3 big breaths here. Okay, moving into single leg happy baby. 3 breaths. Double leg happy baby. Moving on to the right side, 3 times. And lastly, glute stretch on the right side. 3 breaths here. Great. From here, we're going to do a little bit of mobility exercises for your spine. Again, sometimes pelvic pain can present like low back pain. And in response to that pain, we can develop tension in our jaw, in our necks, upper back, shoulders. So I just want to make sure we're addressing a little bit of everything today. We're going to start with just some pelvic rocking side to side. So just kind of letting your knees fall from right to left. We're going to do this about 10 times here. Again, just kind of move through a range of motion that's comfortable for you. Don't feel like you have to go all the way to the floor. I want this just to be slow and controlled. Just kind of getting that low back warmed up. Let's go 4 more times. Good. From here, you're going to roll onto your side. You're going to keep your bottom leg straight. Top leg is going to drape over and your knee is going to be bent. You're going to rest your head on your hand. And this is one of my favorite stretches for your upper back. What I want you to do is inhale as you reach as far forward as you can. Exhale as you reach back. Inhale here. Exhale here. Trying to ensure that the motion is coming from your upper back and not from rotation of your hips. So try to keep that top hip as still as you can. If this is uncomfortable for your shoulder, you can always keep that range of motion a little bit less by placing your hand on your chest and just rotating from your spine. Let's do 2 more. Good. So at home, I'm going to have you roll over onto your left side. For demonstration purposes, I'll be here. Hand underneath my head, bottom leg straight, top leg's going to be draped over. Inhaling as I reach as far forward as I can. Exhaling as I reach back. It's okay to feel a little bit of a pop or a click sometimes. Again, all of us are super stiff through our upper backs, especially if we've been working from home or spending more time on the computer. Let's do 2 more. Okay, we're going to repeat that 1 more time. Going back on our backs. We're going to do 10 of those low back rotations. Nice and easy, breathing is relaxed, pelvic floor is relaxed, just moving from side to side. We'll go back into our open books. You can start on whatever side is comfortable. I'm going to start on my left side. Inhaling as I reach forward, exhaling as I reach back. All right, let's do 3 more on this side. And then we'll switch over to our other side. Bottom leg straight, top leg bent, resting our heads, inhaling as we reach, exhaling as we look back. Nice job. 3 more. Great. So now for this portion, we're going to move into some more dynamic stretches just to, again, get you moving a little bit. We're going to go into a tabletop position. So what that means is you're going to have your hands right underneath your shoulders and your knees right underneath your hips. From here, we're going to go into a cat-cow. You're going to be looking up, kind of leading with your pelvis and inhaling. As you exhale, you're going to round your spine up toward the ceiling and look down. Inhale, looking up. Letting your belly go, pelvic floor is relaxed, shoulders are away from your ears. Exhale, looking down. If this is at all uncomfortable for your back, you can either just do this extended position and return to neutral, or you can just do the flex position and return to neutral, whatever feels best for you. Let's go ahead and do this 4 more times. Good. From here, we're going to move into a child's pose position. I really like this stretch because it stretches a little bit of everything from upper back, low back, hips, pelvic floor. I like to have my knees just slightly wider than my hips, and I'm going to sink back toward my heels. If that's not comfortable, you can always keep knees together and sink back this way. You're going to reach forward with your arms and try to gently rest your head against the mat. If this is uncomfortable for your shoulders, you can always bring your arms in closer to you. But we're going to hold this for about 5 breaths. Okay, cycling through that 2 more times, we'll go back into our cat-cow and whatever modification feels best for you, 10 times. And you can totally go at your own pace. Good. Now that we've done 10, we'll sink back into that child's pose. Again, whatever modification feels good. Holding this for 5 breaths. Checking in with pelvic floor, making sure we're not clenching. Okay, one more time here. Tabletop position, knees under hips, hands under shoulders, looking up, inhaling, letting belly and pelvic floor go. Exhale, rounding up. Good. 2. Good, and last time we'll check, or we'll sink into that child's pose. 5 big breaths here. Okay, this last dynamic stretch will actually be standing for. So I'll step back so you can see me. What you're going to do is practice relaxing your pelvic floor while you're standing. It's one thing to be able to do it while you're sitting or while you're laying down, but we need to make sure we're not clenching those muscles at all times. So from here, what I want you to do is inhale, letting your belly and pelvic floor go as you reach up. Exhale, arms down. Good, let's do this 4 more times. From here, I have a couple of different options. First option is you're going to spread your feet apart and you're just going to shift your weight from side to side to stretch out your pelvic floor and inner thigh muscles. To deepen the stretch, you can bend forward and you can shift your hips from side to side. Again, stretching those exact same muscles. Or if you feel like you have the mobility and you feel comfortable in this position, you can hold a deep squat. I'm going to hold this stretch, but I'm happy, or feel free to hold whichever stretch feels best for you. Let's go ahead and hold this for 5 breaths. Okay, standing back up nice and slow. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhaling, exhaling. We're still breathing 3-dimensionally through our belly, our sides, and our low back. We're thinking about our pelvic floor melting underneath us. Shoulders are relaxed, jaw is relaxed. Good. And into that stretch. To review those versions, we have moving our hips side to side, We can bend forward and move side to side, or we can hold the deep squat. 5 breaths here. Great, one more time. Inhaling as arms go up. Exhaling as arms go down. Good, 3 more times. Okay, and last stretch here. Hips side to side, bending forward side to side, or deep squat. 5 breaths. Awesome. Almost done. We're going to move back onto the mat. On your back, we're going to do a little bit of nerve flossing. So we're going to place our hip at 90 degrees. Our hands are going to be right underneath our knee. Note, they're not on top of my knee, they're just gently underneath. I'm going to pull my toes toward me, and I'm just going to bring my foot up until I feel a little bit of resistance and then back off. When it comes to pelvic pain, endometriosis especially, sometimes our nerves can be involved. And so this stretch is nice to improve the mobility of related nerves and also to give you a great hamstring stretch. Okay, I'm gonna put that leg down. I'm gonna do the same thing on my left side. Toes are pulled toward me. Leg goes up and back down. If this isn't comfortable for your back, you can always bend up this knee to place your back in more of a neutral position. Good. One more time on each side. Back to the right side. Nice and gentle. Switching over to my left side. Awesome. Just to kind of reset, let's go back into that happy baby pose and just gently pull our knees apart. Remember, modifications, you can grab inside of your feet or legs can come down, feet together. Let's hold this for 3 big breaths. From here, I'm going to go ahead and have you come up to a seated position. We'll just do a couple of gentle stretches for your neck muscles. We're going to bring right ear to right shoulder. Jaw is relaxed. This is meant to be comfortable. So don't feel like you have to push into it, or if this is feeling painful, back off. If you do feel like you need to deepen the stretch, you can take your right hand and tug very, very gently toward your shoulder. We'll switch to the left side, left ear to left shoulder. Next stretch, we're going to bring right ear to right shoulder, and then we're going to roll down to look toward our armpit. For some, this might feel like a perfect stretch. For others, we might need to deepen it a little bit more. So we'll gently place our hand on top of our head, looking down into our armpit, stretching out the back of our neck, where we often hold tension. Okay, other side. Left ear to left shoulder, rolling our head down to look toward our armpit, either staying here or gentle tug with our left hand. Great. So to end the class, we're going to completely cool down back with our breath. So we'll go on our back into that comfortable position we started in, either flat on our back or feet up and supported. Tuning into that diaphragmatic breathing, checking in with your pelvic floor, breathing three-dimensionally through your belly, your sides, and your low back. We're visualizing pelvic floor lengthening and relaxing underneath us, like the muscles are just completely melting, letting go. Lastly, if you're able, if it feels comfortable, we'll add in those pelvic drops, remembering that in order to achieve that pelvic drop, it's almost like we're just about to initiate that bowel movement, or we're trying to urinate. We're kind of just lengthening and relaxing those sphincters just a little bit. Doesn't have to be force-filled, doesn't have to feel like you're bearing down. We're going to do that with each inhale. Two more big breaths. Okay, you can come up to a seated position. And that is your pelvic floor relaxation class. I hope you guys are feeling more relaxed and that you have kind of a toolbox of different exercises and stretches that you can do when you're feeling symptomatic or if you're feeling muscle tightness, pain. But now we can move into our Q&A.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jen. So we had a few people writing questions and some send in before. Just so you guys know, if you want to send in things anonymously, you can do so in the Q&A function completely anonymously. So the first question is, who is right for pelvic floor physical therapy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I see patients of all genders, and so everybody can have an issue with their pelvic floor. But symptoms that I commonly see are pelvic pain. I see issues with incontinence, either urinary or fecal incontinence, heaviness or pressure, sensation in the pelvic floor, especially with dynamic activities like running, jumping, any kind of form of exercise, or even like lifting up your child, for example, kind of indications that you might be having some kind of pelvic organ prolapse. I see women who have just had a C-section, they're having issues with that C-section scar. I see women having diastasis recti, dyspareunia or pain with sex, vulvodynia, kind of a wide variety of different diagnoses fall underneath that pelvic floor umbrella. But if you're noticing that just something feels off in that area, I highly recommend seeing a pelvic floor PT, even if it's just for one session, just so we can kind of help you out and just make sure that you're on the right track.
Okay, perfect. And then specifically with endometriosis and pelvic pain, is it better to do pelvic floor physical therapy before surgery, after surgery? Doesn't matter?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. You know, I highly recommend coming in prior to surgery. I think learning how to relax your pelvic floor muscles is so, so important. And that's something that you can start doing right away. And it's going to be especially helpful to know how to do after your surgery as you're recovering and as those incisions are healing.
Okay. And a related question, I am in my first pregnancy. Do you recommend seeking pelvic floor physical therapy during pregnancy in addition to after?
You can. I highly recommend all women come and see a pelvic floor physical therapist, especially after 4 to 6 weeks postpartum, because that way we can do a full pelvic floor exam and just get an idea of what your kind of baseline starting point is. That being said, if you are wondering about specific exercises that are safe for you while you're pregnant, if you're having any kind of pelvic pain, leaking, or issues during your pregnancy, I'm happy to see you while you're pregnant as well.
Okay. And what should I expect from a one-on-one virtual pelvic floor physical therapy session?
Yeah. So we've been doing a lot of these lately, just given the current environment with COVID-19. And so I really do love telehealth. I think it's an awesome way to make pelvic floor PT accessible to everybody. So what we would do is, you know, a huge part of my exam and even a lot of my sessions is the subjective. So you and I just chatting about the symptoms that you're feeling, you know, things that tend to bring on your pain, things that tend to make it feel better. And that way we can come up with a game plan in terms of what works best for you in your home or whatever your current lifestyle is looking like. So we can go over exercises together. We can adjust things as needed. Here at Motion, our virtual visits are about 20 minutes long. And we find that's a perfect amount of time to just kind of chat through everything and check in and see how you're feeling.
Okay. And do you accept insurance even though it's telehealth? And if not, how much does it cost?
Yeah, so at least here in Minnesota, a lot of insurance companies have been great about jumping on board and covering telehealth. So we've been really, really lucky in that regard. If for whatever reason we do not take your insurance, here at Motion, an evaluation is $160, and then a follow-up is $20. Right now, with our 20-minute virtual visits, we're setting that rate at $60. But we're kind of willing to work with you so that you have access to pelvic floor PT.
Okay. Are you accepting new patients?
Yes, always accepting new patients.
Okay. I see we have a few questions about if the video will be available. Yes, it will be. Someone asked if it'll be accessible in the app. We're going to work to actually improve the physical therapy modules in the app to be videos. So hopefully we'll have something in there with regards to that. Somebody asked to relax my pelvic floor. It sort of feels like I'm pushing. Is that correct?
So I feel like that's something that's a little bit tricky, right? I would say try to avoid feeling like you're pushing or bearing down when you're relaxing your pelvic floor. Something that I like to use, or I often recommend to patients, is using a mirror at home, holding a mirror in front of your vagina and taking a look at your perineal body. And so that's the space in between the vaginal canal or the vaginal opening and the anus. And so that perineal body is that tissue in between. And so when you're relaxing your pelvic floor, that tissue is going to kind of move toward the mirror. when that pelvic floor is contracted, it's going to move away. So that's a great way to kind of get visual feedback to see, okay, am I relaxing these muscles? And see if you can make it as relaxed as possible. And especially too, kind of pairing it with your breath really, really helps. So whenever you're inhaling, that's when you're relaxing and lengthening. Pelvic floor is melting, as I like to say. And as you're exhaling, you're kind of just going back to baseline.
Okay. Should these exercises be done every day for pain prevention, or would they be best to relieve pain right when you have a flare?
Yeah, great question. I think these are exercises that you can do every day. It's a great way just to kind of improve your overall mobility, but I do like using them as tools to confront symptoms as they come along. So if you're noticing, man, I'm feeling super symptomatic today, then doing some of these exercises can be super helpful to help to decrease those symptoms.
Okay, great. Someone asked, is using a dilator beneficial for treating vaginal nerve damage and pain, or would it irritate the nerve more?
Yeah, so everybody is a little bit different in terms of who is appropriate for dilators. I would say that's a question that is best addressed by your own physical therapist, or I would recommend seeing a physical therapist, just because we kind of would treat that on a case-by-case basis. And so what you could even do with your physical therapist is order the dilators and practice them together and decide whether or not that's something that's appropriate for you.
Okay, is Pilates good for endometriosis?
Yeah, it definitely can be. I think movement in general is awesome for everybody. It's super cheesy, and I always say this, but motion is lotion. And I think the more that we move, the better that we feel, even if it's super, super gentle movement, or even if it's just breathing exercises. Just tapping again into that nervous system and helping our brains to kind of bring down that fight or flight response is super, super helpful. So I always recommend Pilates as long as you feel like it doesn't increase your symptoms in any way. And a lot of instructors are super receptive to feedback or questions. So if you're interested, you can always reach out to that instructor and say, hey, I have these symptoms, just so you know, it hurts when I do this, this, and this. And a lot of times they can help you out.
Okay. For endo, can you suggest a couple of safe core strengthening exercises where there may be adhesions in the lower pelvic area, which might feel like hernias?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky question. I think when it comes to core exercises, again, there's no kind of like black or white answer. Everybody's a little bit different in terms of what they tolerate. The most gentle core exercise that I teach is transverse abdominis activation. And what that is we're basically just imagining that there's a string tied between our hip bones here in the front of our pelvis. And as we exhale, we're imagining that string pulling our hip bones together and activating our core muscles. If you go online and you look up transverse abdominis activation, you can find lots of videos that will kind of walk you through that exercise. But to me, that's kind of the best place to start, is just to practice contracting and gently relaxing those muscles.
Okay. Great. So we have a few more. There are no pelvic floor physical therapists in my country. What exercises do you recommend I do, and should I do them daily? I have pelvic and lower back pain, as well as pain radiating down my legs.
Yeah, of course, diaphragmatic breathing I think is great. Pelvic floor relaxation, all very good exercises to start with. And when this video becomes available, I think it would be a really great guide to show you the different stretches that we went through today and the different modifications that you can do based on how you're feeling that day. But of course, I feel like the two best exercises for pelvic floor would be the diaphragmatic breathing and the visualization pelvic floor muscle relaxation.
Okay. So another one just came through that said, is it best to have your first pelvic floor appointment via telehealth versus in person? And what's the difference in the exam?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It kind of depends on the situation. I mean, right now, we've been doing some pelvic floor PT examinations via telehealth. However, in person, a lot of times I'll do an internal exam if the patient feels comfortable with that. And what that kind of looks like is we take a look at the muscles on the inside and assess for any tightness or tenderness of the muscles. We're able to perform a full muscle strength evaluation. I'm able to check for prolapse. So I do get a little bit more hands-on information with an in-person exam. That being said, we can be very productive, and I can really guide you as best as absolutely possible through a telehealth session.
Okay, just so a few more. A lot of my symptoms are uterine based. I get bad cramping, etc. What is best for cramping and uterine based symptoms?
Yep, and I think that would go back to pelvic floor relaxation. When muscles are cramping, they're really, really tight. They're getting into that shortened position. And so practicing the breathing, pelvic drops helps to lengthen and relax those muscles.
Okay, are there ways to protect your pelvic floor while doing more strenuous exercises that involve lifting weights?
Definitely. So something that I didn't teach today was pelvic floor activation or Kegels. But when it comes to protecting your pelvic floor, I think it's really important to pay attention to how you're breathing and how you're distributing pressure through your abdomen. So what I always like to tell people is exhaling on exertion helps to make sure that we're not putting too much pressure on our core and our pelvic floor. That can prevent leaking, that can prevent pelvic organ prolapse, that can prevent pelvic pain, is just simply exhaling on exertion. Also, during that hard part of the exercise, like let's say we're doing a shoulder press, for example, I want to make sure that during that hard part, I'm contracting my core and my pelvic floor, or doing that Kegel to help to support my pelvic floor and my pelvic organs as I'm lifting that weight overhead.
Okay, and then I think the last question, unless anyone else has one come through, someone asked if we'll be doing more webinars like this. I would be more than willing to do more webinars. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, definitely. This has been awesome.
So we'll send out a survey, and if we feel like you guys say, hey, we love this and we'd love to do another one, we can definitely get another one set up during this COVID crisis sometime. So any other questions that anyone has before we sign off, feel free to send them over. All right. Thank you guys so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And we will follow up. We'll send Jen's contact information, especially for those of you who would like to do a telehealth session. We'll send you a video and we'll send you a really short survey about how we can improve. So have a good night, everyone.
Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon.